Hello everybody, welcome to the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel, live broadcast and podcast. Today we are talking about the 10 easiest things you can do to improve your ultra running this year with talented chef, should be on Bake Off, gingerbread house making coach and physio, Tim Pigott from HP3 Coaching. How are you today?
Yeah, all good. Happy New Year for those of you listening to this live. Can we still say Happy New Year? Is it sort of 2 weeks down the line now? I think we can still say that, can't we?
Yes, we can still say that. And I want to just show everybody watching live now. If you're on the podcast, you'll just have to go on Tim on Instagram, at Tim Pigott HP3, and have a look at this beautiful, beautiful gingerbread house that he created over the Christmas period. Not only is Tim an elite athlete, he also is an elite baker. And quite frankly, I think he should be on the next series of Bake Off, because look at this beauty, a gingerbread house complete with little coal shed, allotment patches, a snow dog, a snowman. Did you make those as well, Tim, or did you buy those bits?
No, they're very old little models. The snowman, the snow dog, and the penguin. Yeah, they're models, but yeah, made the rest of it. So yeah, it's a log store, not a coal store.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
But yeah, made the kind of veg boxes and yeah.
It's got windows.
So,
it's got snow.
It's got windows.
It's got Santa coming down the chimney.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a sort of tradition that I've got into, somewhat to my wife's kind of annoyance, in the sense that she feels she then has to eat it later. But yeah, it's kind of sort of, it gets grander and grander every year, really.
Oh wow! Or you'd be doing like a Disney Castle one by the time you retire.
Oh, don't suggest that one to her. Yeah, but I think sort of apparently next year's challenge is to have some sort of interior decoration. So yeah, I've got some ideas on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of nutrition and obviously sort of cooking is another sort of passion of mine. And I think if I hadn't gone down the route I have done, then the other career path would have been sort of food and chefing. But when I was younger, I worked in the kitchens and I saw the hours that chefs worked, and I thought, I'm not doing that.
It's very antisocial, isn't it?
Absolutely. But keep it as a hobby, keep it as just, a passion that way.
Yeah, I used to work as a waitress quite a lot, in like coming home from uni and raising money for the next term at uni and stuff. And those hours that the chefs work is just really antisocial. Like when everybody else is having a nice time and eating dinner, relaxing and socializing, the chefs are creating that for them. So absolutely not a good job. Cool, but that is awesome, and we'll bear that in mind when we ask you any nutrition questions in the future. But today we are here to talk about the top 10 easiest things you can do to improve your ultra running this year. Before we get started, I'll just do a little shout out, because Carl Denton on the live chat has a question. He wants to know if you are following the spine, Tim, and whether you'll do the full one day, because the spine looks amazing this year.
It's epic,
so with the snow and everything.
Absolutely. So I've had some of my athletes racing and still are racing. So I had guys doing the sprint distance race, some on the Challenger South, and then on the North. So and friends obviously doing the full distance. And I mean, goodness me, the guys that started at the weekend, so dealing with the snow in the sort of first part of the race. I was out in the fells on Saturday. I was doing a half marathon. It was just under 13 miles. But up on sort of similar elevations, and it was brutally hard going. Wow. Thigh deep snow, and you're just post holing. There was 1 mile of the race that I did, and it took me 30 minutes just to do 1 mile.
Oh my God.
Because you just sort of lift a foot up, sink in, thigh deep, lift a foot up, sink in, thigh deep, and you're just doing that continually.
Oh gosh.
So the guys that were then doing the Challenger South particularly, just, my goodness, that would have been hard work. And of course, we're now getting the melt. So those who are doing the full distance and those doing the Challenger North are now dealing with obviously slushy snow turning into mud and bog, and it's just going to be freezing cold. It's a proper winter spine. It's not like some of the years where actually the weather's been better than the summer version. there's been a few years like that where actually, the summer's been more wintry than the winter version. But this year they are definitely having a hard time out there.
Yeah.
So epic respect. Would I do the full distance? I don't know. I understand the appeal. But knowing my body and multi-day stuff, I think I can push in one go without stopping. But to try and build any kind of breaks or any rest periods in there, I know my body doesn't respond well to that. So I don't think that's one that I would be tackling. Obviously, I'm known for the Challenger South in the summer that I did. And I could, maybe look at one of the shorter distances. I am tempted by the North, to be fair, because I think you can still do the North, particularly in the summer, in just one hit.
Yeah.
My man Joe, who won the summer North this year, he did that in pretty much one hit. So it is doable. But as for the full distance, that's just a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
It's a lot of suffering.
Yeah, it's not my bag. And most of it's in the dark, and it's like you are just doing that to see what your body can do. You're not doing it to take in the scenery, to look at the wildlife, to stop a while and have a sandwich. It's a kind of I wouldn't use the word selfish pursuit, but it's kind of like an inward looking thing rather than an outward looking thing. So if I was ever going to do the spine race, I'd do the route and I'd do it over like 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah, a bit like how I want to do the Dragon's Back race this year over 6 separate weekends, to really take it all in and go slowly and make a film and take pictures.
Yeah, well, it's, these long distance trails, then again, there's hundreds and hundreds of these long distance trails that you can do. And some of them have been turned into, they've got races on the route, but you don't have to do it as races, of course.
Yeah.
And you're quite right, if you take your time a little bit more, then you can appreciate the scenery and appreciate the beauty of being out there. Whereas, definitely, doing it as a race, it is an exercise in self-discovery, which has its own values, of course. And the spine itself, has built up quite a special following.
Yeah.
The spine family, as it's known. And that's why people go back year after year to do the same thing, because it is that sort of insular, kind of just getting away from the world and just living in your little bubble. Yeah. As you slowly work your way up the country.
Yeah, spine bubble.
Yeah, but no, it's obviously we're all glued to the dots, seeing how everybody's getting on. Waking up in the middle of the night and checking your phone.
Still going. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's all good.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing to watch, isn't it? Like I'm very much an armchair appreciator of the spine, and I've reported on it media-wise a couple of times as well, and that's quite grueling as well, because all of the athletes, like, they get a sleep, but you don't get a sleep if you're doing the media. But anyway, talking of art, what are you doing? Are you going to do the spine? Are you thinking? Have you got a race plan list this year already?
Yeah, so my sort of first A race is Ultra Trail Snowdonia 100 miler.
Oh,
so awesome. That's the kind of one that I'm building towards now. So that's obviously in May. I did the 100k a couple of years ago, and again it was one of the hot years. The last 2 years have obviously been quite hot. So that was the sort of first of the hot years.
And that I met you on the finish line.
Oh yes, of course. Yes. We had cuddles on the finish line.
Ace.
That was right.
Yeah, it was so fun. Like, you just came
Sweaty,
in and like
snotty.
fell. And I was like, oh, hello.
Yes.
That is a memory I'm going to cherish forever.
Yeah. No,
I might just turn up and be there on the finish line again so that we can repeat that
moment. Absolutely. You can catch me as I collapse across the finish line for sure. So that's the first one. I'm doing the Grisdale Trail Marathon in a couple of weeks' time as well. So if any of your listeners are going to be there, come and say hello.
Oh, cool. That sounds like a good one.
And then, just waiting to find out about UTMB. So we get the results this week. I haven't got an automatic qualification, so I'm in the ballot. So just keeping fingers crossed on that one, really.
Fingers crossed for you. Awesome. Brilliant.
And then you say you're going to trek the Dragon's Back route.
Yes, indeed. So Dragon's Back race, massively out of reach for me. potentially forever. I've always really admired the race and just thought it was an amazing route. But since trying to do the Cape Wrath Ultra and completely failing at that a few years ago, that was supposed to be my practice to see whether I could maybe do the Dragon's Back one day. I've just decided it's far too much, especially right now. So the best I can do is an SKT, slowest known time. So I'm going to do it over 6 separate weekends. And even that looks pretty hardcore, like with the fitness that I've got right now, because the days are like 50, 60, 65k with ascent, obviously, over Wales. So I think it's all I can do right now to split those days into 2 days and just attack them one by one. And I think that will be useful for people still, because they'll get a recce of the route, and
yes,
it will be interesting. I'm going to learn some Welsh along the way. I'm going to interview a few people about the Dragon's Back race who have done it, and give little tidbits along the way. So I'm hoping it'll be a really useful recce experience for people watching. For people who either want to do the whole race, want to do the hatchling, or just like me want to break it down into more manageable chunks.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Just adventures.
Yeah, it's inspiring, and
exactly.
and also for me, it's good to just not have a particular race day in mind as well. I've got childcare to sort out, so when my mum and dad can have Finley, that's when I'll razz over to Wales. And I quite like, even though it's going to be really complicated, I quite like the idea of working out all the logistics of how do I get to the start point, and then where do I camp in the middle, or where do I stay, and then how do I get back to the station or my car at the end. So that kind of stuff appeals to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had quite a few people saying, oh, can I come with you? So whenever I know what the dates are, then I'll ask some people. But I want to catch up with Lowry Morgan as well, because she did the commentary on the Dragon's Back race this last year. And I just really loved the way she blended the Welsh language into her commentary. Like, she'd start off in Welsh and then she'd say it in English, and there'd be bits of Welsh popping up throughout. So I'm going to be trying to learn a bit of Welsh as I go as well. So it's a really nice, wholesome, like whole body experience there.
Good. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, yes. So now we can chat about the topic in hand.
Yeah, okay.
Now that we've caught up, we're going to be talking about 10 really easy things that you can do to improve your ultra running this year. And it probably applies to running in general, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
things.
I've come up with 10 things we can talk about. And none of them are particularly groundbreaking, because there are no secret sources, magic hacks, or anything like that. But I think it's just maybe useful, I think particularly this time of year when people are, getting really motivated, and there's, social media is just awash with, do these 3 things that will just revolutionize your training, or, look at these hacks that are going to just transform your running and all the rest of it. And the simple fact is there aren't any secret sources. There are no, magical hacks you can be doing. So I'll kind of run through 10 things you can be doing, and I'll kick off with probably the number one thing which will improve your running, and that is just quite simply more easy volume. Because the bottom line is, the more volume you can get in your training, the better you're going to be. But that doesn't need to be hard. It's about the easy, and we've talked about this multiple times, that a lot of the people listening to this are going to be trail and ultra runners. And what is your easy pace? What's your slowest pace in an ultra marathon?
Is walking.
Walking.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is walking relevant here? Because I was just thinking, I was planning to go for a walk later, but should I turn it into a slow run?
No. It's appreciating that your zone 1. So again, social media is awash at the moment with, zone 2 is magical. Zone 2 training is going to transform your running. We've swung from high intensity HIIT work to now all about zone 2. But we're at risk of forgetting all these other zones. And zone 1 carries just as much weight, arguably, maybe more. But it's just not a very sexy topic to talk about, is your zone 1. But absolutely, there was a paper published just before Christmas, back in, it was published on the 1st of December, actually, which was looking at the training intensity distribution of marathon runners. It's marathon runners, it's road runners. And that showed that those who did the most volume in zone 1 were faster. Simple. And And actually, the fastest runners were following more of a pyramidal approach. So again, a lot of people will have read about the kind of polarized approach in terms of 80-20 as an example. But actually, the fastest runners, you look at elite runners, they follow more of a pyramidal approach. So you've got a big base in zone 1, a good chunk in sort of zone 2, and then some in zone 3 if we follow a 3-zone model. So zone 3 being above threshold, so you're kind of much higher intensity work. But the danger is that if people are getting too obsessed about zone 2 and upper zone 2, and you find actually you start drifting into that kind of middle zone, and you do too much there, creating too much fatigue, which then means you haven't got the energy to be doing the higher intensity work.
So that's where building 80-20 is, like, because you're like, right, 80-20, but then people are doing too much there.
Well, the danger with the 80-20 is the 80%, people think about it being kind of zone 2.
I see, yeah.
If we think about the 5-zone model, so zone 2, this is the confusing bit where we talk about different zone models.
Yeah, because what is zone 1? Is
it
barely out of breath?
So it's very easy. It's warm-up pace, it's recovery pace, it's walking, it's easy jogging. You're breathing through your nose only. You do not need to breathe through your mouth. It's that kind of easy.
Yeah.
But the danger is, I think people are getting too excited about zone 2 and pushing the upper limits of zone 2.
Yeah.
And what we know is
3 and 4.
It then strays into zone 3, which is that sort of middle zone, that sort of moderately hard zone. So absolutely, it's about trying to get as much volume in that sort of easy intensity zone, and that is potentially walking. I'm not using it right now because I think the noise would probably come through on the podcast, but I've gone and got myself a treadmill for my desk here.
Cool, I've got one too.
So a little walking treadmill. Yeah.
I was going to use it on this, and then I thought, no, the broadcast will be ruined.
Exactly.
Bang, bang,
so,
bang, bang.
If I'm just on a Teams call with work, or if I'm just, going through emails, or just doing, low mentally stimulating activities, or just, client calls, things like that, doing it on my treadmill. Just walking away. It's on a 5% incline, so getting a little bit of a harder workout that way. And it's just building a little bit more volume in the day. So I think that's one of the kind of key things that I'm going to add in by getting a bit more of that zone 1 lower intensity. So if you can yourself, walking treadmill for your desk if you are stuck at a desk all the time. But even just I'm doing with some of my athletes, just things like getting off the train one stop earlier, or getting off the tube one stop earlier, and walking a little bit more to the office. Getting out at lunchtime and just going for a walk around the block. If you've got a dog, obviously, making sure you're appreciating the walking aspect of taking your dog for a walk and building up that volume that way. So sort of microdosing that lower intensity and just building more of that volume in. And yes, also then appreciating that slow running is still very, very valuable. I'll be doing, easy runs at, 10 kilometers an hour, or even slower. And that's still got good value, even if the speed work is then 16 kilometers an hour plus. So it's appreciating that you don't have to do all your running that little bit faster.
Yes. So if anything, do more running, but slower.
Yes, exactly.
And then one session a week where you really go for it.
So it could be, it depends on how much volume you're getting in there. Novice to intermediates, you're probably getting, 1 or 2 higher intensity sessions in a week. If you're more elite, it might be, 3 or 4 a week, depending on how you structure your week and whether you're doing double days and how much kind of cross training that we're building in. And that's another topic we'll talk about. So I think the first thing people can think about is, how can I get more easy volume in my week?
Yeah, well, that's a really nice idea. I love that, because it means that you just have to get out for more walks.
Absolutely.
And do everything by walking or cycling, like taking the kid to nursery on your bike.
Yeah, exactly. So, my athletes, again, have got some young kids. It's appreciating the role of the running buggy. And just, an easy running buggy commute to nursery or something like that. Yeah, that's hardly a workout, but it's very, very valuable in terms of building that volume.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
Yeah.
one.
So then the second one I was going to talk about is sleep. So again, nice easy one.
This is
sleep.
not an easy one.
Or yeah, less easy for those with maybe small children.
Yeah.
But just appreciating that, sleep is probably one of the biggest things you can build into your program, as it were, for recovery. That is your biggest recovery mechanism.
Yeah.
So, we can use all the tools and the gadgets and the pills and the potions, but sleep is your number one. In terms of your performance, the biggest correlation with having a good performance is consistency with your training.
Is this number 3?
Well, no, this is still number 2.
Okay.
So the biggest thing that's going to break your consistency is getting sick or getting injured. So those who sleep less than 8 hours a night are up to sort of 1.7 times more likely to get injured. And that's from a research paper, particularly looking at adolescents here. But the message is there that if you're trying to survive on 6 hours a night, 6.5, maybe even 7 hours a night, you're probably not really recovering enough, and actually your risk of then getting sick or getting injured is going up significantly.
Yes.
And that is then going to impact on your ability to train, because you get sick, you miss a week, you get injured, you miss a couple of weeks. That's going to make a huge difference. So anything you can do to
That's exactly what's happening to me and my husband. We are going at it and going, right, back into training, wicked, amazing, forgetting that we can't do what we used to be able to do, and then then we don't always get a good sleep because, like, especially if Finley's got a cold or something, he's snoring away, or he's waking up. I wake up most times twice in the night with him. Like, like last night he needed the toilet in the middle of the night. You have to go with him because he's only like nearly 4.
Yes.
And then another time he just woke up for a chat at 3:30 this morning. Just woke up and said, "Mummy, can you put your head here on the pillow?" It was like, why?
Yeah.
Very odd. We had a nice chat and then we went back to sleep. Well, he did. I didn't. I've been up since 4:30.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But that's it. So it's appreciating that, if your sleep is disturbed, the training has to take a back step, a back seat rather. So, if you are in that stage of life where, sleep is interrupted, you've just got to then accept that training isn't going to be as high on the priority list. You do need to knock it down a few levels in terms of volume and intensity, and just keep it ticking over and doing, as you say, what you're doing now. You're not necessarily entering races, but you're still doing, routes and courses, and where you've got a little bit more control over when you do it. So that's
adventure.
A healthier way of approaching it. Yes. Exactly, just having adventures.
And that's where more easy volume comes in as well.
So yeah, it is. Yeah. So, whatever you can be doing to improve your sleep in terms of bedtime routines, hot kettle black here, but, not being on your phone up to sort of 30 minutes before bed or an hour before bed, trying to track your sleeping patterns and monitoring your recovery. So whether that's resting heart rate and HRV overnight or first thing in the morning. But yeah, looking at how well you're recovering and trying to improve your sleep. Maybe that's a whole podcast in itself.
What about naps? How valuable are they for increasing? Like I've got an hour at lunchtime. I could go and have a nap. Is that going to be beneficial, or should I just wait and then go to bed early?
No, absolutely. So again, if we know that you're in a period of sleep interruptions for whatever reason, compromised sleep, then we know that just getting a nap in the afternoon, even 20-minute nap, will counterbalance the negative effects of disrupted sleep.
Ooh,
so absolutely, 20-minute nap, if you can do that at lunchtime, will make a huge difference to you.
Amazing. And we've got a live question as well about the sleep, around the sleep. Graham Methold says, does your sleep get worse when you are in the middle of a training block? Some say it is a sign of overtraining.
Absolutely. So it can be a signal that you're not recovering well enough. So the question is, why? Is that overtraining or is that under recovery? And it's coming back to, is it that you're maybe you're training too hard late at night, and that's then impacting your sleep. Are you fueling well enough? So if you're not getting enough fuel for your training, are you ending up sort of catabolic, and that's why your sleep is disturbed, because you're getting sort of hot and sweaty at night time because your body's breaking itself down, because you're not fueling well enough. So absolutely, if you're finding your sleep is getting disturbed, that's a warning sign that something's not quite right in that balance. So you need to do a sort of deeper reflection on, are you actually absorbing the amount of training you're doing? More often than not, it's not really kind of overtraining, but it's under recovery, particularly in runners.
Yeah. So more recovery needed. Hope that answers your question, Graham.
Yeah.
So sleep, very important. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are in a heavy training block, training camps, things like that, then as you just said there, getting an extra 20-minute nap in the afternoon can make a huge difference. Or I think it was Paul Radcliffe who was famous for having 12 hours of sleep in every 24-hour cycle, because you have a 2-hour sleep in the afternoon as well.
Luxury.
And yeah, exactly. But that's the kind of what's the difference between an elite athlete and an amateur athlete? And often it's not that the elites are training more, it's just that they're recovering more.
Yes, because they haven't got everything else. They're just focusing on the training. They don't have a job as well.
Exactly.
That is their job.
Exactly. Yeah. So then the third one I was going to talk about, which somewhat feeds back to that last question, was around nutrition. So going back and or maybe linking back to my gingerbread house.
Yes.
But really doing a deep dive on your day-to-day nutrition. So again, we often think about our nutrition for our workouts and talk about that, but certainly thinking about our day-to-day nutrition, making sure that we're looking after our energy levels, that we're getting sufficient proteins for our repairs, because again, I think as endurance athletes we often think about our carbohydrates, but we often don't think about our protein as much. Particularly if you are following a vegetarian or vegan diet, then protein becomes a bigger challenge to achieve because of the bioavailability of the plant-based proteins. So you're going to need to make sure you're getting a really broad range of sources of your proteins, so that you're getting a wide range of those amino acids. Is looking at maybe periodizing your nutrition. So we think about periodizing our training, but do we periodize our nutrition enough? And the phrase there we talk about is fueling for the work required. So on those high intensity days, do you need to increase your carbohydrate to give yourself the energy for that? But on those low intensity days, those easy days, maybe it can be a little bit more kind of moderate carbohydrate, but increasing maybe your fat and protein percentages across the board there.
I like to consume an entire bar of chocolate when I do a workout.
There's your carbohydrates. Yes.
Yeah, I came back from I rode to Ketton Quarry on my bike, which takes half an hour. So I did an hour on the bike, not huge pace or anything, and then I did like 4.5 miles running around Ketton Quarry, getting lost, walking through the brambles. It was like my own Barkley marathons in there. And then I came home and I ate a whole bar of chocolate orange, one of those ones that's like that big, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's your carbs. Maybe get a bit of protein in there as well. So maybe a glass of milk to go with it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Your chocolate milk is a classic recovery food drink. Don't necessarily need your fancy shakes and supplements and all the rest of it.
Yes.
So yeah, just kind of maybe doing a deep dive on your day-to-day nutrition. Maybe keep a 3-day food diary and just look at what you're eating, when you're eating. And sometimes just recording it for a couple of days. Again, you don't need to be measuring things and weighing things, but just kind of being a bit more mindful, or maybe to start to highlight, maybe I'm not actually getting my 5 pieces of fruit and veg a day. Maybe I need to look at increasing that a little bit. Or, am I just eating the same things all the time? Do I need to get a bit more variety in the diet?
Like more vegetables, like a colourful array of vegetables.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing
Eat the rainbow.
Eat the rainbow, taste the rainbow.
Yes.
One thing one of my friends is training to be a health coach, so I've been her guinea pig, and I had to keep a food diary over Christmas of all things. And honestly, it stopped me eating for a lot of rubbish. And And so I was taking a photo of every meal and then sending it to her for analysis. And she said to me, think of your plate and have like half vegetables on the plate, because I haven't been eating enough vegetables, I don't think. And then quarter protein, quarter carbs. Obviously, if you're doing like loads of trainings, you might need some more carbs, but with what I'm doing at the moment. So I've been prepping food. I've never really thought about prepping food before. I've always been like, got to 5:30, like, oh God, what can we have for dinner? Fish fingers, baked beans, and some veg from the freezer. So she's got me like buying loads of vegetables. And then in the morning, while Finley's eating his porridge, I'm there chopping sweet potatoes, cauliflower, broccoli, and making it all, roasting loads of different types of veg. And then all, for 2 or 3 days, you can have a hot veg salad. You can crumble some feta on it. You can put seeds on it. You can, what else? You can put pomegranates, make it look dead nice. Broccoli and cauliflower in the oven. Oh my goodness, it's a revolution. So and it's just an easy, quick dinner to do. And you can put pulses with it as well, chicken, anything. So this is my revelation now for this year.
Excellent.
It's really, really good. Roasted veg, sweet potatoes, all that jazz.
Good. Okay. So the next thing I was going to say was about trying to build some almost kind of daily mobility or recovery into the routines as well. Now, mobility, I mean, that could be some form of stretching if you are particularly stiff and tight. As runners, we don't need to be, overly flexible. We don't need to be gymnasts or martial artists. But having limited mobility, particularly in things like the hips and the ankles, can put us at risk of lower limb injuries, particularly. So, do we need to be working on some additional could be foam rolling on an evening just to help relax things out? It could be a little 10-minute, 15-minute yoga routine. It could be just incorporating a bit more of a dynamic warm-up into your routine. So, a 10-minute pre-run mobility, dynamic mobility, leg swings, hip circles, these type of things, just to get the body moving better. Yeah. And then maybe a mini static stretch post-run just to, again, ease things out. So it's just kind of preventing excessive stiffness and stiffness in the wrong areas building up. And again, that's what's then going to lead on to potential injury, which is then going to disrupt training.
Yeah.
So again, what's the difference between, an amateur athlete and an elite athlete? Well, obviously, as we mentioned, the elite's got more time. So, an elite athlete will be spending 30 to 45 minutes a day on recovery mechanisms, so recovery tools. And, that will include mobility, yoga, foam rolling, getting a massage, things like that. Now, okay, the average amateur athlete who's juggling work and family and everything else in the mix won't have necessarily an extra 30 odd minutes a day for this, but just microdosing that. So, doing some calf stretches whilst you're brushing your teeth, doing some balance work whilst you're making a coffee, doing a little 5-10 minute yoga thing before bed, which will then improve your sleep as well. So we're linking into that one, but trying to build in these little routines into life. And that will make a big difference overall.
Yeah, definitely. I'm loving the use of the word microdosing. I think this is the key. I've listened to quite a few of Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's talks, always very good. And like Michael Mosley's Just Do One Thing. And it does seem like if you try and be like, oh my God, I'm going to do half an hour of yoga before bed every night, you just can't do it. So just start with like 2 minutes and maybe gradually build to 10 if you can. But at least you've done 2 minutes there. So yeah, I really like your use of the word microdosing throughout this chat.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it a minimum that I'll do 10 minutes. If I've got time for more, brilliant, but sort of 10 minutes. And you've always got 10 minutes just before you go to bed. Put Instagram down and do 10 minutes of stretching before bed instead.
Yes.
So the next one was maybe just incorporating some strides.
Okay.
So again, you think about sort of easy. We're not talking about high intensity intervals, no magical hill workouts or anything, but just starting to put a little bit more, snap in the legs, a little bit more spring in the legs as well, by just doing some short accelerations. So even the end of your easy runs, just doing 4, 5, 6 accelerations of anywhere between 10 and 20 seconds. So gradually building up to kind of almost like 90% effort. So we're not talking full-on sprints. It's not full gas. It's just ramping up to kind of 90% where you're running fast, and then you ease back off again, and then an easy jog in between of anything up to kind of 1 or 2 minutes in between each of those if needed. And that can just be on the flat. It could be some short hills where you then sort of slowly walk back down again. But that will have a really big impact on your sort of neuromuscular coordination. It'll boost your running economy, so make you more efficient with your running. It'll add a little bit of top end speed, but without adding additional fatigue from doing your high sort of intervals or high intensity work. So yeah, just incorporating a little bit of that, because again, I think the danger is as trail and ultra runners, we get very good at plodding. And we then lose that ability to run a lot faster. So just adding some strides in there gives us a skill of running faster, but without adding the additional fatigue. So that sort of links in with your brief of easy things to do to improve your running.
Yes. Yeah, no, they're really good. I always like the idea of doing strides, but then at the end of my easy run, I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. But that's reinvigorated me, and I will do it. Yeah. We've had some nice comments as well. Tadeusz is here. He says hi, and also John Doyle says he likes the Michael Mosley tips as well, and he's great. It's great to hear that we're linking that to microdosing in this chat.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you for those comments, folks.
So yes, the next thing I was going to talk about was fueling the gut, or sort of training the gut and fueling the workouts. Yeah. So really trying to improve your ability to take on carbohydrate during your training. So we used to think about trying to get maybe 60 grams an hour, and I think most of your listeners will be well aware that we can actually take a lot more than that with our sort of combined carbohydrate intake. And that could be up to 90 grams an hour, or some of the elites will be pushing even 120 grams an hour, or some even higher than that. There's we can debate whether higher than that is really beneficial and can actually be used, but certainly I think most of us can be trying to improve our tolerance to higher carbohydrate intake. But that's something that you need to gradually build over time. So thinking about when is your A race, and working backwards from there, and putting yourself through a sort of periodized plan where you slowly start to increase, maybe just sort of 5 to 10 grams an hour more as the weeks go by. Yeah. So is that a case of using gels? Is it about using chews? Again, I'm supported by Precision Fuel and Hydration, and they got their little chews, which are just sort of 15 grams each. So again, you can just add an extra 10 to 15 grams an hour by just having an extra one of those little cubes. Yeah. And you can just slowly build up your gut's tolerance and ability to process that carbohydrate. So yeah, looking to do that, and on maybe you can put a link on the show notes, but I've got a range of guides on our website for how to actually progressively train your gut depending on what you're building up towards type of event.
Well, that's a good idea.
And for the longer races, the longer ultras, it's can you actually build a little bit more protein and fat into there as well? It's not just about carbohydrates, it's not just gels. So yeah, what's the kind of real food that you could be taking on board to fuel your gut for those longer events? So yeah, I mean, I'll give you a link for that as well. That's sort of maybe something that people can look at. So yeah, again, easy. We all like food. Comes back to gingerbread house. Can you fuel an ultra on a gingerbread?
I bet.
There you go.
I wonder how far you could run on that whole gingerbread house. Probably 200 miles.
There's a lot of sugar in that gingerbread house. But okay, let's not go off on a tangent. So the next thing I was going to say about trying to build some more strength and conditioning into the program.
I wondered when this would come up. Yeah. I've already written strength down. I'm just making notes about each one, just by the way, just in case tapping is annoying people on the podcast.
This is me, isn't it? So we've got to think about the S&C. So trying to get at least 2 strength sessions in a week if you can do 3, you're doing really well. Any more than that is a bonus. But 2 strength sessions a week wants to be your minimum.
And
now,
how long? Is that half an hour or?
Well, yeah, exactly. So we can microdose it. Let's go back to that. So we can be effective with just 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It could even just be, even a 15, 20-minute body weight session after a run twice a week. So it doesn't have to be going to the gym and lifting big, heavy weights.
Okay.
If the gym really is not your happy place, then we can look at other ways that we can build that in there in terms of, some body weight exercises after a run. So you come back in, you do some, body weight squats, split squats, some single leg RDLs, so kind of your balance exercises, doing some plyometrics, so hopping, skipping, bounding, jumping. All of these things could be built in without necessarily going to the gym. But yes, if you can get to the gym and you can lift heavy weight and give your body that stimulus that it doesn't get from running, it's only going to improve you as an athlete. So yeah, my personal reflection is I had a sort of phase second quarter of last year where life was really busy, and the gym sessions just started to slip a little bit, and that led to me then getting injured, which then knackered the back half of the year. So yeah, that's kind of one of my non-negotiables is the S&C does get done.
Yes.
And if that means sacrificing a run, then I sacrifice the run because the S&C is the non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking of it. And I sort of applied that to myself this year. I think back in September or October, I started having like an actual PT session, like a hideously expensive PT session with a local PT. I go to his house, he's got like a gym in the garage there, and he makes me do like really different things each time, so I never get bored. But he pushes me, and I don't do that myself.
There you go.
And I kept saying, I'll do a YouTube thing, I'll do it. You don't do a YouTube thing, so I just have to spend the money because I just think it's really important. And I've got to the age now where I really feel like I want to invest in this. And so even when I haven't been doing much running, I've been doing John's strength stuff, and he does a class on a Saturday morning as well. So sometimes I go to both of those things, and they're both 45 minutes long. So I feel like I'm nailing the strength now, Tim. You'll be very proud of me.
Excellent. Well done. Well done. Yeah, and it will make a big difference. So yeah, trying to make that a priority. And if you need guidance on that, there's a lot of resources out there. And obviously, if you want to get in touch, we can help you with that. We've got a number of resources. Plenty of examples go up on my Instagram as well. So yeah, looking to incorporate more strength into your routine if you can.
Yeah.
So then the other sort of strengthening thing, we've talked about the body a lot of the time, but what about the mind? So training the mind, ultra marathons are as much a mental challenge as they are a physical challenge. We started off this call and we mentioned about the spine race. The spine race is just one long problem solving exercise, isn't it? So having that mental resilience to help you, stay focused during a race, to be able to adapt to the challenges that will get you thrown your way, and obviously the discomfort and the difficulties that you'll face. Having worked on your mental resilience there will help you succeed in your event. That can be working on some visualization exercises. We work through, for example, sort of actions on. So whatever scenario that can crop up during a race, what's your action of how you're going to deal with it? So you visualize everything that potentially could go wrong with your race, and then you come up with a strategy for how to deal with it. So in that race, if and when, more likely when, it goes wrong, you've got a plan. You know what you're doing. So there's no stress, there's no panic. You just crack on and solve that problem. It could be, some of my other sort of favorite mental activities and things like chunking the race. So you're breaking it down into little chunks. It could be kind of aid station to aid station, or climb to climb, or even just mile to mile, or I have an alarm that goes off on my watch every 20 minutes to remind me to feed. But it just means that however long that race is, I'm only thinking about the next 20 minutes. I'm not thinking about the next 20 hours. So yeah, working on some mental activities, some mental strategies there. And again, we've touched on this on a number of our previous chats as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one.
So then number 9 on my list, and you touched on it earlier on at the beginning, is cross training. So yes, this is primarily a running podcast, webinar, whatever you want to call it. But non-running activities are also really, really important. So yes, that could be just going walking, but adding in some other non-impact activities. Obviously my background is also triathlon, so cycling is a big part of all of my athletes' programs that will engage with it anyway. But cycling is a great way to get more volume in the system without pounding the legs.
Yeah.
We're training for potentially very long time duration races, but we can't do those very, very long runs on a regular basis. We can't, if any long runs over 3 hours carries an increased risk of injury and fatigue. So, training for 10, 12, 20 hours, how do we do that if our long runs are only ever sort of 3 or 4 hours long? Whereas actually we can build in some very long bike rides into that program, which doesn't have the same stress on the body. Or again, even just some building in that low intensity, that zone 1. So I'll be using the bike again for lots of just easy zone 1 volume, but without pounding the legs.
Have you figured out a way to put your bike under the desk yet? Like, is that a thing? Because my husband does a lot of cycling, and he was wondering whether he could set a bike up under his desk and Zwift while he's doing meetings.
Not under my desk here, where those who are watching the live is sort of in my office / spare room. But yeah, I mean, I'll go in my garage on the turbo, and again, if it's just listening to a Teams call, or if I'm having to watch a recorded presentation or something like that, then yeah, I'll do that on the turbo. So yes, I can build that into work activities, and I know plenty of my athletes again will, if they're just having to dial into a Teams call where they don't actually have to contribute, then they'll be doing that, on the turbo. And it's a great way you can get more in there. Or other things. I've got athletes that have a Concept 2 rowing machine, or other rowing machines are available. So adding some rowing is a great way to get some strength, some whole body cardiovascular work as well. So working the shoulders and the back, and which is again all important. Maybe it's going swimming. Getting on the elliptical or the cross trainer. So building these activities in is a great way to again build up that zone 1, to build up a little bit more base endurance, but without pounding the legs.
Yeah, that's all very good.
So advice. Yes, as you said, cycling to the quarry, doing your run, cycling home again, fantastic. You're getting more aerobic volume in the body, but without the increased risk, because you've bumped up your running mileage.
Yeah.
So yeah, all good.
I was thinking that the bike ride was just not a waste, but I was like, it was eating into my run time, and also I was trying to be green and not use a car.
Which is all good, but it is still beneficial for your training.
Excellent. Well done.
And then my final point is keep it fun.
Fun. I like that one.
Fun.
Don't think we need to say any more.
we've got to enjoy this. We got, even the elites, even those who are, running and racing to pay the bills and to put a roof over their heads. It's got to be fun. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy the training. You've got to enjoy the racing. But yeah, you by having that enjoyment, it's going to improve your adherence to your training plan. It's going to prevent you burning out. So, within the sort of training plans and, my coached athletes, there's runs in there which are just free sessions. We call them sort of Shinrin Yoko, forest bathing. Just go out there, don't look at your watch, don't listen to things, just go and run and enjoy it. Enjoy the scenery, enjoy just running for running's sake. Or my sort of Scandinavians will call it kotsur, joy runs, of just running for the love of running.
Yes. Yeah.
I do another one which I picked up from another chap called Hal Davies, Coin of Destiny. So you just stand outside your door, flip a coin, heads turn left, tails turn right. Come to a junction, flip a coin. And so you don't know where you're going, you just make it up. You might discover some new routes.
Cool.
Or some new trails. It's great fun, doing that in the woods, and you just sort of pick up lots of little random trails and go places you never really thought of going before. So, that can be a good, fun way of doing it. So, just find some more sort of fun and play. Playful running, just free fartlek, where you just sort of run hard when you want to run hard, run easy when you want to run easy. Go running in the woods and practice jumping over things, or practice, dancing through the trails, jumping on rocks, just having a bit of fun with it all.
Yes, yeah.
And that'll improve your skills as well.
I think that's a good one to do with kids as well, that kind of thing, because they're always they do that anyway, don't they? You have to make a route about things like that.
Yes.
We tried to take Finley to a wood the other day, and I thankfully had a little marble in my pocket, and Steve would run ahead and put a marble in the tree stump, and I was like, "Come on, Finley, bike to the next one. I think it's near Daddy." And then he'd go and he'd be like, "I found it! I found the fairy marble." And and then at the end, we thought, oh, I think he hated that. And then at the end, he said, "I like that adventure. I like finding the marble."
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, oh, score.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. All good.
Yeah.
So so there's my sort of 10 tips, easy tips for improving your running.
Yes.
This year and beyond.
Well, I have been making notes throughout, so I can now summarise with more easy volume, sleep, nutrition, daily mobility recovery, strides, fueling the gut, strength, mind training, cross training, and fun. Yes, that sounds brilliant.
There you go.
And if anybody wants any help with any of these, and if anybody feels like, yes, 2025 is my year, this is the year, I'm going to get everything right and I'm going to go really go for it, you might need the help of Tim and his amazing team at HP3 Coaching. They do everything, don't you, Tim? You've got nutritionists there, you've got coaches like yourself, you've got people who do more of the physio side, and you've got loads of training plans and base training plans and flexibility training plans, strength training plans, all on your section of Training Peaks. Is it mainly on there? I've got a link.
Yeah, so I mean, you can
there.
You can go to the main website, the hp3.co.uk, and then there's links to the Training Peaks site for plans if you're wanting to just buy an off-the-shelf plan to follow. Or we've got a range of coaching staff, so if you're needing more one-to-one coaching, or if you're needing us to help write you a bespoke training plan just to follow, you can get in touch, and one of the team can help you out. So whether that's the whole package you're running, or whether you just want a specific strength plan to follow, or you want to have a nutrition consultation or sports psychology consultation, we can help with all that.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely get in touch with Tim. He offers a whole range of things. Megan Cameron says, "Thank you for all the helpful tips." Thank you, Megan. Thank you for watching. And Graham said he's going to bear all these in mind for next week. He's doing the ARC 50.
Very good.
He says,
yes.
Good luck for that, Graham. He says, "Are you having another go this year, Claire?" No, I'm not having another go this year, but I may do in the future. I'm not very fit at the moment, so I'm just going to do my Dragon's Back sort of recce things and just keep it at that for the moment. But there's a lovely video of me failing to do the ARC last year. I did really enjoy it though. It's a really good race. I think you'll really enjoy it, Graham.
Because I've got guys at all distances at the ARC this year, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on. Yeah,
you'll be up all night watching the dots then.
Absolutely.
It must be exhausting being a coach, because not only are you trying to do your own thing, but you're like, you're so invested in everybody else's as
trying to follow everybody else. I know. Yes.
Yeah. And Maria watching live says 10 excellent points, thanks. So that sounds like a really good comment to end on. Thank you very much for everybody watching, and thank you so much to you, Tim, as well, for your excellent top 10 tips for everybody to take through to 2025.
All good. Excellent. Okay. Thanks very much, guys.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.